I was trying to think of something to say other than good morning, because by the time I get up here, you've said good morning like 3 or 4 times. So, happy Sunday. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My talk title today is called Coming to Life. And I thought that was really appropriate, given we're coming right out of Easter, and it's the start of spring. But what's funny about it is that the inspiration, like what started me thinking about this idea, actually happened in September this last year with Hurricane Florence, when we were prepping for Hurricane Florence. How many of you are native North Carolinians? Not many, which is what I was expecting. So most of us are transplants. I have never prepped for a hurricane before. I've never really had a hurricane before. In the 14 years that I've lived in North Carolina, we've had some tropical storms, but not really anything big that everybody was like, worried about. So my experience being in North Carolina with severe weather, having come from the Midwest, was we're going to have an inch of snow, going to the grocery store, and there's no milk and bread, which I could not figure out. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, really? Wow, okay. So, my interpretation was that maybe there was some like exaggeration on the part of people living here in prepping for bad weather, right? That's what I was like, there's really no reason to have a run on bread at the grocery store for an inch of snow, but that's okay. So I'm driving home from work one day, and I have to stop by the grocery store, and it's the Monday before the hurricane is supposed to hit. And I go into the grocery store, and the first thing I notice is that I can't find any place to park, which was unusual given the time that I come home from work. So the grocery store was very, very busy. So I pull in, I find a place to park, I go into the grocery store, and I have never seen so many people in this grocery store at the same time. What is going on? Like, that's what I'm thinking to myself. It's crazy. And then I catch some teenage boy pushing his cart full of cases of water. Overflowing with cases of water. And I'm like, wow, maybe I'm missing something. Like, they were waiting for the stocker to bring more water into the grocery store to like set up. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a case of water, right? That's not what I came in for, but I'm like, this is a really, like, people are really, I got caught up in it, and I'm like, well, I'll just at least go buy a case of water. So I brought a case of water home, and I come home and bring the water in and the other few things that I had to get from the grocery store, which thank God were there still. And Gonzalo comes in from the other room, and I'm like, are we not preparing for this hurricane? Like, are we missing? He's like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. So I trust that, we're good. We play out the rest of our Monday night, everything's fine, we go to work the next day, and I get a text message from Gonzalo because at some point he got curious. He's like, what's going on? And so and that happens for him, he's very curious. And so he started to like look at the hurricane, and he's like, we're not prepared. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like, it's coming in 2 days, and there's nothing left, right? We're the late starts. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And so Tuesday, Gonzalo spends all day at Walmart. And for those of you who don't know, Gonzalo is, in the military, special services, survival training. I get home, and every need has been prepared and thought of, right? He was, baby, I love you. He was digging a trench around our driveway to help with flooding. Like, this was for real. This was for real. We get everything in. I go into the house Tuesday afternoon when I get home from work, and the whole dining room table is just full of flour and canola oil and things that you can use to make your own candles in case power goes out, and like all kinds of, we were ready now. We were totally ready. And then, of course, everybody knows what happens. Like, it really didn't end up, nothing too big happened. But as I was watching all of this happen on Tuesday, and all of this energy was going, like, we were so busy. And not just us, right? Everybody was busy 2 days before because they were paying attention to what was going on, and we weren't. And so everybody was like, getting all their stuff in order, getting all their things. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? We have a reason to be motivated by something. And then my very next thought was contrasting that with sitting in my car in traffic on my way to work in the morning. And I'm like, we have these really, Gonzalo and I are very blessed, very, very blessed. We have these cush lives. You know, we live in a nice neighborhood. We make great money. Our kids are healthy. We're very blessed, right? And I sit in traffic on my way to work in the morning, and sometimes you think, like, is this it? And then here comes this hurricane, here comes this problem, here comes this issue, here comes this challenge, and all of a sudden we're like, all right, let's go, right? And the other thing I noticed with prepping with this hurricane is that people responded in one of three ways. There were the people who were like, yeah, whatever, right? There were those people out there. Then there was another group of people who were kind of like Gonzalo and I. Were like, we're gonna get this. We've got it, bring it. Bring it, hurricane, we own you. I mean, it was motivating. We were empowered, like we were ready to go, right? And then there's my daughter who came in from school and saw all of this stuff on the dining room table and got a little afraid that maybe the world was going to end. And got scared, and there were some tears, and I was very nervous, and are we going to be okay? And so there were these two competing things happening with this energy, right, this problem. What's interesting is that in the body, biochemically, nervousness and fear and excitement are exactly the same chemically in your body. So when you get nervous, your body pumps you full of all these chemicals. You have this biological response. You get a little jittery. Your nerves might be going in your stomach, right? Well, when it's fear, it doesn't feel good. When it's excitement, it feels great. And the only difference is what you bring to it when you decide what it is. And I'm calling that giving your life meaning, right? Coming to life is about giving your life meaning. And how you decide to do that, the meaning that you give your life, is what I call the primary belief. This is what I've decided is the primary belief. Everybody close your eyes for a second. Take a big, deep breath in and finish this sentence for me. Life is blank. The first word that came into your head is what I believe is your primary belief. That is what fundamentally in your gut you have decided life is about. I will not tell you what my word was because I'm trying to change my word, right? But it's eye-opening to think about that. You get to this place and you're like, okay, what is, now when you know what life is to you, every decision and every choice and every meaning that you give everything comes from that place first. It does. So if life is hard, you're going to have fear when another person who says life is easy, they might have excitement, right? And the answer to that question really comes down to, how you were raised. It really does. And then as you get older, how you decide you're going to interpret the things that come at you. Because you can't change what comes at you, you can only change how you respond to what comes at you. And what I found interesting about this hurricane was, even in my house, with just a few people, there were some real differences between how we were going to interpret this thing that was coming at us. Like, nobody was going to stop the hurricane. I couldn't at any point go to Wilmington and say, thou shalt not pass. Like, that wasn't going to happen. I don't have that authority. It was coming. I couldn't stop it. But my response to it was different from Gonzalo's response to it, whose was different from Lily's response to it, who was very different from Jack's response when the hurricane showed up, and we did lose power. Bless his heart, he was so angry. It's a funny story, but I won't talk about it right now. My point in all of that is that we forget sometimes that at our very base level, we get to choose how we're going to engage with what comes at us because of how we answer that primary belief. What do you really think life is? Because if you really believed that the universe was conspiring to help you, if you really believed that, when a problem comes, you would not worry about whether or not it was going to hurt you. You would truly feel like, I'm either going to overcome this or I am going to learn something from it that will make it better for me later. There is no failure. I cannot fail in this. I cannot. I will either be successful or I will learn a lesson. And then that just, every other experience just completely is gone from your interpretation of the world. Like it just doesn't exist anymore. Right? I just thought that was really interesting. And what I also am learning, what I'm finding out, is that whatever you believe life is, you also have right now the ability to change how you ended that sentence. So if you grew up believing the world is out to get you, the life is not safe, you do at some point have the ability inside of yourself to change the ending of that sentence. And so that it becomes, the universe is conspiring to help me, or life is easy, or I am always protected, or, my favorite, I will succeed. I will always be able to handle what comes at me, which is my favorite one, right? And doing that is actually kind of an interesting process that I'm learning a bit about. It has to do not just with positive thinking. It's bigger than that. It's about engaging your body in different ways and moving different ways, and not just thinking different thoughts, but putting yourself in new situations and changing your environment a little bit. And it's really very cool little stuff that you can do, and it really does make a little difference, you know? There was a study that they did at a Mayo Clinic with people who were suffering from depression clinically. And they brought all of these people into the room and they divided them up, randomly between two groups. And group number one, they gave medication to and standard treatment. And group number two, they did not give any medication to. All they did was have them come into the clinic, stare at themselves in the mirror with a giant smile on their face for like 20 minutes. Like crazy smile, like Joker smile, right? And that second group that just did the smiling had fewer depression symptoms after the study was over than the people who were being medicated. All they did was smile. That's all they did. That's crazy. I mean, how hard is it to smile? You actually use less muscles to smile, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. It reminded me of a talk, and I mentioned this in the meditation a little bit. It reminded me of a talk that I heard on YouTube. It's been a while now, several years ago, by Valerie Carr. She was giving a talk at the National Moral Revival Watch. And her family immigrated to the United States several generations ago. Her grandfather came over as a Sikh. Her great-grandfather came over as a Sikh. And moved to the Midwest and became a farmer and did his thing. And she was talking about how we were going to recreate this America and her vision for America. And in that speech, she has a very powerful moment where she says, what if the darkness that we're in right now isn't death? What if it's not the tomb? What if the darkness we're in right now is the womb? And we're just going through labor right now. Like our lives are we're going through labor so that we can birth out. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear things like that, the first thing I do is to immediately make it very, very small and then make it very, very big. Because you can put that metaphor on top of a moment. You can put that metaphor on an hour. At 12 o'clock, I'm in the tomb, and at 1 o'clock, it changes. This could be very, very small in terms of time, and it could be your whole lifetime. It could be a season in your life, you know? It could be a night. It could be 3 weeks. And I think it's interesting to play with that concept of time within that definition because it helps us in the moment when we're struggling with something very small or very big to keep walking and to keep putting the best foot forward and to go back to whatever that primary belief is that you want. So that's the thing. We don't think about what we want our primary belief to be. We just accept what it is. And at no point do we spend much time thinking, well, do I want my life to be hard? Because you don't have to choose to see life like that. You don't. as much of a right you have to feel bad, because everybody has stuff in their life. Everybody's got scars, right? Everybody has something in their life that is a reason to not feel good. And you own that. You're right. You don't, it was unfair. It wasn't right. It's not okay. It wasn't just. It shouldn't have happened. And you can't, nobody would be angry at you or discredit you for being angry about it. But as much of a right as you have to feel bad, you have equal right to feel good. You have equal right to feel good. And if you've got bad on one hand and good on the other, which one are you going to choose? Now, I think I figured out the answer to that question. Pain gives our lives meaning. It really does. If you have a loss and it hurts, it reminds you that it meant something to you. You know, and that can be any kind of loss. It can be the loss of a job, it can be the loss of a family member, it can be the loss of a relationship. If you hurt, it's because you loved it. And that's not bad. It's about sailing through the pain and then deciding how long you're going to mourn the loss as a way of honoring it. And I don't think that that's bad. I think that we run into a place where we feel like we're never supposed to feel bad. That's called toxic positivity. And that's not good. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable sometimes. It's the only way to grow. It's the moment where Bev likes to say, clarify your truth. When you go, why is this happening? The answer to that question is so you can find a new answer to how you want to live. That is the answer to that question. And then you can pick any answer you want. And you can decide to feel excited or you can decide to feel scared. Because it's the same in your body. The only thing that's different are the thoughts that you're telling yourself about it. Right? So I would encourage everybody to spend a little bit of time thinking about that. I mean, you are really the writer of your life, right? Who reads books? Got a favorite author? Yes. For those of you who don't like to read books, who watches movies? Right? Okay, so somebody somewhere is familiar with what I'm going to say. You are the writer of your life. You're the narrator of your own documentary. You're writing it. So when something happens to you, you can close your eyes and you can take a deep breath and you can go, do I want to believe this? Or do I want to believe that? And then once you decide what you want to believe, you put yourself in action to make it real for you. And Wayne Dyer says, it's not I'll believe it when I see it, it's I'll see it when I believe it. You have to choose what you want to believe in. That's a really powerful thing to think about. And we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. We spend a lot of time driving in traffic and watching movies and taking care of our kids and making dinner and putting our life, painting our houses. We're doing that right now. We're painting our house. Like, we spend a lot of time doing the task of living. But we don't spend a lot of time asking ourselves why we're doing it. What's the meaning that you're giving to driving to work and making dinner and washing the dishes and painting your house? Why are you doing it? Simon Sinek, that's his whole thing. His whole mission is for people to find their why. And it doesn't matter what your why is, but if you don't have it, then you have no meaning. And with no meaning, people die inside. It doesn't matter anymore. And you decide your meaning, which is the greatest gift that any of us could ever hope for. It's the thing that separates us from every other animal on the planet. We get to choose how something is going to impact us, what something is going to mean for us, how we're going to choose to define our life. And every single wisdom book that I have ever read, from The Untamed Soul to the 4 agreements to the 5th agreement, like all of them, they all come down to this fundamental thing. Every day you wake up and you get to decide. Every day you get to wake up and decide. What does it mean? Why are you doing it? And your answer can be anything you want. Be anything you want. It can be fear or it can be excitement. You know, that's what it's all about. So thank you for the few minutes today. I appreciate it. I hope that I gave you all something to think about through the week. And I would really, really encourage you at some point this week to sit down with a journal or a piece of paper or just in your own brain and think to yourself, what do I want? What do I want to feel? And what matters to me? Why do I want it? So that you can start making choices that'll put you in a place where you can have it. Because that's how it works. That's how it all works. So, thank you very much.